You're listening to Women's Issues, Women's Voices with Corri, Flaker, Fraser, and Victoria Day. Women's Issues, Women's Voices is a feminist talk show with a rotating group of hosts who cover a wide range of interests from the perspective of women. We offer a platform for women to share their stories, discuss political issues, teach about healing, and share their talents. This episode is the first in a series that Vic and I will host together. In these episodes, we will explore divine feminine archetypes through embodiment, meditation, stories, and more.
Welcome to the Zoom studio.
This idea was inspired by the 25th anniversary of the Progressive Women's Spiritual Council, which we are both a part of. To commemorate that milestone, the Spiritual Council made a blanket with the art of 25 goddess archetypes that they've featured in each annual women's retreat since 1996.
Wow.
We were inspired to celebrate some of these archetypes that have held meaning for us. And today we are here to talk about the turtle.
The turtle woman. Yeah. The season of the turtle.
Yeah. So, Vic, why don't you talk about your connection to the Spiritual Council and to the turtle?
So the Progressive Women's Spiritual Council came into my life because my friend Corri here said to me, I was at a transition time in my life. My daughter was about to go away to college. I was seeking some connection to a women's community. And Corri said, oh, there's this great group of women down in Southern Missouri, and they have this annual retreat. And in that particular year, I feel like it was definitely a goddess inspired, because their retreat is often in June. But in this particular year, they had it in September, which was on exactly the week after I'd taken my daughter to school. And they were honoring Bridget, which is the goddess that has been in my life my entire pagan lifetime. So that was just completely magical for me. And then, I had things going on in my life, studying and recovering from a brain injury and all these things. And so reconnected with them just a few years ago. And, the honoring of the Divine Mother to me is such a part of my activism, that reclaiming, decolonizing, really touching into what is spiritual about divine feminine. And the turtle has a special vibration for me, because in the last few years, I've started claiming what I call my grandmother turtle energy. And that is the part of me that's postmenopausal, that is slowing, that goes at my own pace, that is that's really like about my energies being my own. And so I'll say, like when other people want me to hurry up and do something, I'm just like, grandmother turtle here. So when you told me that was the first goddess archetype that they honored, she's on the blanket, which if you watch the video on YouTube, which I will share on the Women's Issues, Women's Voices Facebook page, we can see the image of the woman riding on the turtle, right? Yeah, it just seemed, everything about it. And as we talk about it more, it's just like, it feels like this is such an important energy for us to be bringing in at this particular time in our cultural generational history.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So as I want to, my connection with heart, the spiritual council began in 2001. And at that time I was not really, not really, not really religious anymore. But I missed, I missed a connection to the spirit and to the, but I just didn't have it, it didn't, I wasn't feeling it. But then someone invited me to come to this meditation women's retreat in the Ozarks
Mm-hmm.
with, the Progressive Women's Spiritual Council. And it was full of meditation, songs,
Mm-hmm.
like sharing, story sharing, and compassionate listening. And I was taken with how soft everyone was. And not soft in their appearance, but soft in their voices and their attitudes. And I felt like a knife compared to everybody else. Like I just felt so sharp,
Mm-hmm.
like in contrast to this lifestyle that they have adopted and that they have honed and they have like embodied the divine feminine. Like it was so new to me and so foreign, but I was very compelled to learn more. And I just felt it's like, I want to be soft too. I want to feel gentle with myself and compassionate in my own self and self-loving.
Mm-hmm.
So through the years, I've maintained a connection with them and been to several of the retreats.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say several, but I've been to quite a few of the retreats, and it offered me a connection to a spirituality that I never knew before, and it gave me a feminine face to God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, I feel like, so I'm gonna take a step back. So listeners, if you want to find out more about the Progressive Women's Spiritual Council, please be sure to check out the event for this radio show that's on the Women's Issues, Women's Voices Facebook page. And then you can read more about what they're about. And I feel like that I came into my connection with them already being a goddess worshiper. That has been really since I was, well, I like to say that I was worshiping the goddess before I ever even had language for that. Because when I was a child, I talked to this one particular tree. I loved reading the myths about the gods and goddesses, Greek and Roman gods and goddesses. I remember having this book that, all Persephone and all these different stories that of course at that point in time I only knew they were stories. And then when I went to college and I got connected up with that was in the mid 80s, and got connected with feminists who were talking about this, the feminine face of God, right? This idea. So I had been goddess worshiping with other goddess worshipers and pagans since definitely the mid 80s, the early 90s. The Progressive Women's Spiritual Council brought a sense of the divine feminine aspects of the goddess, which to me is just what you're saying is so focused on love, so focused on loving ourselves, right? Learning how to love who we are as individuals, right? And also just being loving. And I feel like that was which, to go back, I don't know why they picked Turtle Woman the first time. I don't know if you know that story or not, Corri. But to go back to the turtle, one of the attributes of turtle is that she is comfortable in both water and on the earth. And she needs to be able to move between water and earth, because Turtle Woman herself is completely dependent on the environment. Unlike humans, where we have an internal thermostat that helps us stay at this constant temperature, turtle, being a reptile, is really taking in the tone and the temperature of the environment all the time. And so the reason that turtle has this tough skin and this shell is to protect her, to help protect her from that fluctuating environment. And the thing is that, but there's still softness inside. And that's what I feel like I'm hearing us both say, is that we had experiences coming into PWSC, right? In which we're laughing because we're having typical Zoom studio challenges. Coming into PWSC, I didn't really understand how much I craved and needed the softness, the slowness, the receptivity of the feminine energy that I feel like is so embodied by the women who are the core of the Progressive Women's Spiritual Council. And so when I think about Turtle Woman, that's exactly what I'm in. Just there's this soft inner insides. Everything is soft inside the turtle, and yet protective outer layer that can be shed, moving into the, not shed, but like moving into the water, right? They become more fluid, moving out on land. They're moving in this slow way. Yeah, so when I think of Turtle Woman, I think about this ancient balance between caring for ourselves, that sharpness you're talking about, and caring for ourselves, that softness that you're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking, especially right now, with all that's going on in the world, it's like, we talk about grounding and staying grounded and putting your roots down. And it's like, well, what about the turtle? Like, the turtle doesn't have roots. The turtle has a shell. So I'm thinking, like, I'm picturing, how does turtle stay steady in chaos, like with the waters of, especially like my image when I think about this is the loggerhead turtle in the ocean. And sometimes the waters can be pretty intense. So as I'm working on my own embodiment, I think about like how wide I'd like my shell to be, and how like sometimes you just got to go deeper. You've just got to go deeper and like just kind of ride it with this wide shell.
Yeah.
Like,
so, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think I told you before we started the recording. So in the work that I do, the Laban movement analysis, right, we talk about the different qualities of movement, and the four main qualities of movement are associated with the four elements. and the quality or state of movement that what I think of with turtle, because it's this earth water, right, flow weight dynamic of how turtle moves. That's all about dream state, is what Laban named that. Is that when we get into where we're moving, anyone who might have ever seen me dancing, this is my favorite state, right? It's not about it's not about focus. It's totally not about what's going on in the world around me, nor is it, and it's kind of timeless, right? And that's turtles, I mean, are timeless. They survived the extinction of the dinosaur, right? And that's when I was preparing to talk, I thought, well, this has been so interesting because I've been doing a lot of work with moss during the pandemic. One of my mentors and friends from New York City did this entire workshop on moss, and I'm like, oh, moss and turtle are very similar. Moss has survived the extinction of the dinosaurs. It's one of the oldest plants that exist, and it has no root system, right? It doesn't send roots down. It's like the turtle. It's on the surface, but it completely absorbs any moisture that comes into the environment. It's totally environmentally dependent, like the turtle, right? And I think it has some similar qualities. Like, you know, if you want to take goddess archetypes into every living thing, I mean, the goddess of the moss, what she teaches us, right? I mean, it's just I feel like it's just this calling to slow down, check into where you are, let yourself check in. Does the environment that I'm in right now nourish me? Right? And she invites us to be selective about what we're exposing ourselves to. And that's why I think this is such a beautiful thing that you're bringing in, Corri, into people and into my consciousness and into the consciousness of the listeners, because that's where we all are right now. As things start to open up, we have this opportunity to actively choose and select what we expose ourselves to. Right? Yeah.
Well, and how do you, like, I'm thinking intentional movements, like the turtle knows instinctually where they're going, and they're directed there by their environment. But you're right, you can choose.
Yeah, you've mentioned this. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I've heard, like, you should, even if it looks like a turtle's going the wrong direction, you shouldn't pick it up and turn it around, because what is it that turtle?
They have a natural homing instinct, which is just like they return to the same nesting ground every year to lay their eggs. So when you see a turtle crossing the road, you don't want to be like, oh, turtle, don't cross the road, and then turn them around and send them back, because they're just going to turn back around to walk across the road again. So the best thing to do is to pull over, help the turtle cross the road, and then be on your way.
Ooh, you're giving me chills, because I'm just like, okay, so, you know, when we bring this into the divine feminine attributes, supporting someone, supporting ourselves and other people, even if it seems like they're walking into traffic, right?
You help them through the traffic.
Helping them, yeah, rather than going, no, stop, and trying to control it, right? That seems to be another turtle woman attribute. It's like, oh, okay, you're trying to get somewhere beyond this chaos, right? Beyond this dangerous place, beyond this right? Potentially, I mean, for turtles, like potentially lethal place, right? How can I help you maneuver? Or how can Turtle Woman help me maneuver this chaotic, things going too fast, things bigger than me? I'm like picturing myself as a turtle on a road, right? You know, how can Turtle Woman help me to get to the other side, to keep going towards what is calling me?
Right.
Right. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So they don't think about it. They're not like, oh, I need to get to, you know, I need to get to Scott Boulevard. They aren't thinking about it
No.
with a thinking brain, but their lizard brain and their home and their instinct is just guiding them to where they need to go.
Okay. I think that's a beautiful segue into a little bit of embodiment before we go into our musical break. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling things and you notice yourself having thoughts or images, stories, Turtle Woman is about that lower brain, right? But the lower brain for humans can also be very overwhelming. So if anything about this has felt overwhelming, this is a great opportunity to just invite yourself to slow down and to check into your breath and to let the music move you in any way you'd like to move. If, on the other hand, as you've been listening to this has stimulated your lower brain into full pleasure and just like safety, feeling totally comfortable, I also invite you to take a breath. Let yourself just notice all the things that are being stimulated in the vibes of your body. And just let this music, wherever and however you are, to just move some of that through. Feel what you want to learn from Turtle Woman.